You didn't click this video by accident. Deep down, you're searching for something. Maybe hope, maybe a way to rebuild, or maybe just a little inspiration. Either way, you're in the right place. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a story. It's a mirror. Of love, of struggle, of mismatched dreams and messy real-life moments. Of a couple who turned challenges into a mission, and somehow turned love into their greatest investment. There are kids involved, conflicts, surprises, and a twist that might just change how you see your own life. So take a breath, lean in, and don't blink, because the next 10 minutes might just move your heart more than you expect. Emily was born with a restless heart. While other little girls dreamed about princess gowns or sweet 16 parties, Emily was flipping through travel magazines and circling countries on maps. To her, every flag was a promise of adventure, every foreign word was magic. And when she met Michael, she thought she'd found her perfect travel buddy for life. But Michael? He was wired completely different. Calm, practical, a numbers guy. Raised in a family where money was tight, he learned early that stability wasn't just important, it was survival. Why spend thousands on flights and hotels when you could invest in peace of mind? For Michael, luxury meant a paid-off car and a stocked pantry. In the beginning, love made those differences look cute. Emily would dream out loud about Iceland, Tokyo, or the Amalfi Coast, and Michael would smile and say things like, maybe someday. She made folders of itineraries. He made Excel sheets with grocery budgets. For a while that worked. Then Lily arrived. Big, curious eyes and a laugh that echoed through the house. 2 years later, baby Noah showed up, a mini tornado in footy pajamas. Suddenly, the dreams took a backseat to diapers, daycare, and health insurance. Emily still spoke about travel, showing the kids videos of safaris and snowy mountains. But every time she brought it up, Michael shot back with, "Do you know how much we spent on the car last month? Or the pediatrician?" She wasn't asking for luxury. She was asking to be heard. For her, memories were the real riches. But to Michael, it sounded reckless. He felt overwhelmed. He worked late, paid the bills, and stretched every dollar. In his mind, saving was his way of loving. But Emily couldn't feel that. She just felt alone in her dream. Conversations turned into silence. Dinners became short. Nights grew longer. No one cheated. No one yelled. But the space between them grew, wider and quieter. Emily started to wonder, is it selfish to want more out of life? Michael wondered, can't she see I'm giving her everything I've got? And so, slowly, they began to drift, living in the same house, but in completely different worlds. But life has a funny way of flipping the script when you least expect it. Rain was tapping softly against the window. It was one of those slow, gray Sunday afternoons. Emily sat on the couch, hands wrapped around a mug of tea, her gaze lost in the drizzle. The kids were playing nearby, their voices muffled under the weight of a quiet house. Michael walked in from the garage, wiping his hands with an old rag. When he saw her like that, distant, quiet, something shifted. It had been a long time since they had a real conversation, the kind that didn't end in sighs or silence. He sat down beside her, turning just enough to face her, and asked in a voice so soft it almost got lost in the rain. "You still think about going to Italy, don't you?" Emily blinked. That came out of nowhere. She hadn't brought up travel in weeks. She'd stopped pushing, stopped hoping. But that dream, it was still glowing quietly inside her. "It's not just about Italy, Michael," she said gently. "It's what it represents. I don't want 5-star hotels or fancy restaurants. I just want to live. With you. With our kids. I want to see Lily's face when she sees snow for the first time. I want to hear Noah ask if real knights lived in ancient ruins. I want memories, you know?" Michael looked down. His chest ached because the truth was he wanted that too. He just didn't know how to make it work. "I do want those things. Really. I'm scared. Scared of spending what we have and not being able to cover the basics. You know how my childhood was. I just want to protect our kids from that." Emily reached for his hand, her eyes soft, holding back tears. "I know, Mike, and I love you for that. But we can't be so afraid of tomorrow that we forget to live today. There has to be a middle ground, a way to dream with our feet still on the ground." And then he said something she never expected. "What if we made a plan? What if we figured out a way to make money work for us, instead of us always working for money? Have you ever heard of passive income?" Emily raised an eyebrow. "Not really, you mean like investing?" He nodded, finally looking hopeful for the first time in ages. "Yeah, I've been watching videos about it. Stocks. Real estate funds. Dividends. There are couples out there who started small, just $5 or $10 a week. And now they travel the world on the income they've built. No crazy jobs, just smart planning. Emily's eyes widened. Wait, there's a way to save and still see the world. Michael smiled. Maybe, if we do it together, make it our thing. In that moment, it wasn't about money. It was about them, about building something together again. A bridge between her wild heart and his cautious soul. Emily leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. If you're in, I'm in. And as the rain whispered against the glass and their kids laughed in the background, something new sparked between them. Not a dream, but a plan. It wouldn't be easy, but it would be theirs. Together. The very next morning, even before the smell of breakfast filled the air, Michael was already wide awake, with a mission in mind. That late-night conversation had lit a fire inside him, and he wasn't about to let it fade. Carefully slipping out of bed so Emily wouldn't wake, he tiptoed over to his makeshift office in the corner, a small desk crammed between the dresser and the wall. He flipped open his laptop, typed, "How to start investing with little money," and suddenly fell into a rabbit hole of beginner-friendly videos. Words like compound interest, dividends, ETFs, and real estate funds popped up everywhere. Most of it sounded like a foreign language, but strangely Michael felt excited. This wasn't just about money. It was about freedom. An hour later, Emily woke up and found him still glued to the screen. "You became an investor overnight?" she teased, sipping her coffee. Michael grinned and turned the screen toward her. "I'm trying. But check this out. If we had started investing just $10 a week 5 years ago, we'd already have over $3,000. Without lifting a finger. Just consistency." Emily sat beside him, intrigued but cautious. "Is it safe, though? There's so much sketchy stuff out there. Exactly why I think we should do it together. Start small, learn step by step. Nothing crazy. We skip one pizza night a week and use that to invest." Emily smiled, partly because it was sweet, partly because it made sense. Sure, she still dreamed of Paris cafes and walking the streets of Lisbon. But now those dreams felt possible and safe. "What if we made it a family mission?" she said. "We get the kids involved. Show them that dreams don't just happen, they take effort and smarts." Michael's eyes lit up. It was the best idea he'd heard all week. That evening, the whole family gathered in the living room. Lily bounced on the couch while Noah tried to wear his pajamas over his jeans. Michael and Emily explained the Family Dream Challenge. A fun new mission to save small amounts, skip little luxuries, and invest that money together. Everyone got their own dream jar. Lily volunteered to skip her Wednesday ice cream runs. Noah, reluctantly, agreed to take a break from buying action figure cards. Suddenly, the house had something new, purpose. It wasn't about money. It was about teamwork, values, and a plan. Emily set up a family planner. Michael opened an account with a beginner-friendly investment platform. They started with just $20, nothing bold, but enough to say, "We're doing this." And with that first small step, hearts hopeful, pencils sharp, their real journey began. 3 weeks had passed since Michael and Emily took their first financial step. Just 21 days, but inside that house, it felt like a whole new season had begun. The energy was different, lighter, more connected. Like everyone was finally on the same team. Michael was all in. Every night after the kids went to bed, he parked himself on the couch with his notebook, soaking up finance videos like a college kid cramming for finals. He learned about diversification, real estate funds, even how to invest internationally, without needing $1 million. Emily, on her end, created Planning Sundays. Each week, they sat down with coffee, opened the family planner, reviewed expenses, and figured out where to tighten, save, and invest. It became a ritual, part teamwork, part date night. But the real surprise? The kids were just as into it. Lily, aged 10, made her own piggy bank and slapped a label on it that read Paris 2030. Her dream? To stand beneath the Eiffel Tower and eat a real croissant. Noah, age 8, drew a cartoon airplane and stuck it to the fridge. Every time he skipped spending on toys or candy, he'd run over and draw a checkmark on it. One step closer to his dream. Then one quiet night, something incredible happened. Emily was washing dishes. Michael was on the couch, checking their investment app. And there it was. Their first dividend had hit. 28 cents. Yep, just 28 cents. Tiny? Maybe. But when Michael showed it to Emily, they looked at each other like they'd hit the jackpot. We earned money by doing nothing, she said, eyes wide. Nope, he said. We invested, and the money worked for us. She dropped the dish towel and flopped onto the couch beside him. They laughed like kids, because those 28 cents weren't just money. They were proof that something was changing. That night, Michael grabbed his notebook and scribbled at the top of the page. 28 cents today, $280 tomorrow, $28,000 in a few years. All we have to do is keep going. And they did. The arguments that once filled the house faded. Money, once a source of stress, became a shared mission. Sure, there were still hard days, tight budgets, and unexpected bills. But what once pulled them apart now pulled them closer. Because they finally realized, it's not about how much you earn. It's about how far you can go together. At exactly 2:47 a.m., Emily sat up in bed, heart pounding. She'd been jolted awake by a faint sound, something coming from the kids' room. She rushed in to find Noah sitting up in bed, his cheeks flushed, eyes watery, quietly sobbing. He was burning up with fever. Her heart dropped instantly. Moments later, Michael appeared behind her, half awake but alert. And just like that, the night turned into a blur of cold compresses, thermometer checks, and whispered reassurances. They stayed by Noah's side until the sun began to rise. By morning, the doctor confirmed it. Noah had caught a viral infection. He'd need to stay home for days. Worse, the lab tests and medications weren't covered by insurance, and they hit the budget hard. Emily felt the ground beneath her shake. Everything they'd been building, all the careful planning, suddenly felt fragile. Should we really be saving so much? She whispered, tired and scared. What if something worse happens? We've barely saved anything yet. Michael squeezed her hand. He was scared too, but giving up now would be like jumping ship just when they were starting to sail. I'm scared too, Em. But remember that first penny we earned? It wasn't about the amount. It was proof we're on the right path. We're in this together. She nodded, but fear is a sneaky thing. It creeps in when you're sleep-deprived, when your child is sick, when your bank account looks thinner than usual. And then something unexpected happened. Michael checked his phone and saw an email from their investment app. A stock they'd bought had jumped. Not by a lot, but enough to cover some of the medical expenses. It was the reminder they needed. Investing wasn't just about someday. It could also be their safety net right now. That week was brutal. Sleepless nights, pharmacy runs, worry. But it was also the week they learned, for real, what teamwork could do. One night, while sitting quietly after another long day, Emily looked at Michael and said, we can't control everything. But I've realized something. When we face things together, we can handle anything. Even life's fevers. Michael smiled, tired but proud. And with every dollar we invest, every little step we take, we're building something stronger than money. We're building resilience. Together. In that moment, they understood something big. Challenges weren't the end. They were proof that they were growing, as a family, as a team. After that intense week with Noah's illness, things finally started settling down. The fever broke, the laughter returned, and something subtle but powerful shifted inside the Thompson home. A quiet sense that they weren't just surviving, they were becoming stronger, closer, more aware, and yes, even a little wiser with money. It was a sunny Saturday morning. The kids were chasing bubbles in the backyard, and Michael and Emily were sipping coffee on the patio, their new favorite ritual. We're actually doing okay, Emily said, smiling as she looked over the latest investment update on her phone. What if we started teaching the kids about this? Michael raised an eyebrow. Teaching them about investing? Yeah, but in a fun way. Like a game. Show them that money isn't just for spending. It's something you can care for. Grow. Like a garden. And just like that, the Investor Family Challenge was born. That Sunday, they gathered Lily and Noah in the living room and introduced the game. Each week, everyone would get a little mission. Maybe save coins, skip a small treat, or even pick a company to follow together in the market. Noah, despite being the youngest, was all in. Lily, ever the organizer, grabbed her pink notebook and started keeping track of everyone's coins like a mini accountant. Emily watched it all unfold with joy. They weren't just managing money. They were building something. Memories, traditions, lessons that would last. And most of all, they were teaching their kids a truth that too many people never learn. Dreams aren't just made of luck or lottery tickets. They're made of habits, of patience, of $1 at a time. That night, as they lay in bed, lights off and hearts full, Emily whispered, I never imagined something as boring as investments could become a family tradition. Michael chuckled. Neither did I. But hey, we just talked about dividends between an episode of Paw Patrol and bath time. They both laughed. It was silly, but it was real. And it was powerful. Because this wasn't just about money anymore. This was about legacy. About teaching that financial freedom begins with small choices, made together, with purpose and with love. It had been a few months since the Thompsons launched their Investor Family Challenge. And by now, one thing was crystal clear. This was never just about money. It was about presence, about intention, about building something meaningful, one small step at a time. Michael, once buried in spreadsheets and financial stress, now made sure to eat lunch at home every Sunday. Emily, who had long dreamed of boarding planes and seeing the world, began to realize that sometimes the greatest adventures start right at home, barefoot on the living room rug, eyes on the horizon. Then one quiet night, something unexpected happened. While helping tidy up the house, Lily found an old, dusty notebook in a drawer. She flipped through the pages, and there it was. 10 places I want to visit before I turn 40. Excited, she ran to Michael. Daddy, Mommy wants to go to Paris. Michael smiled gently, flipped through the pages, and brought the notebook to Emily. She froze, her eyes filled with tears. I made this list back when we were dating, she said quietly. I tucked it away because life got in the way. There were always other priorities. Michael wrapped her in a long hug. Maybe it's time, he said, to take dreams off the shelf. That same night, after the kids had gone to bed, they pulled out a world map, laid it across the kitchen table, and started dreaming with purpose. They looked up flights, did the math, set goals. For the first time in years, a dream felt real again. What had started as a battle for financial stability had become a life project. And that old dream, once hidden away in a drawer, was now more alive than ever. They both cried, not out of fear this time, but out of hope. And right there, at that simple kitchen table, they understood something powerful. True wealth isn't in the numbers on your bank statement. It's in the way you choose, together, to live your life. They were now teaching their children through action. And they were proving to each other that even if they had different dreams, they could still walk toward the same destination. Side by side, always. With the world map pinned to the wall and travel goals taped to the fridge, the Thompsons were more focused than ever. Every penny they saved, every impulse buy they skipped, every little stock or real estate fund they added to their portfolio, it all had a purpose now. To make the dream of traveling a reality. Together. And like any journey worth taking, progress was slow, but steady. Michael started tracking the dividends that landed in their account each month. Nothing huge, but seeing money work for them? That was powerful. Emily dove into learning about real estate funds and took charge of long-term planning. It wasn't just finances anymore. It had become their shared project. And the best part, the kids were right in the middle of it. Lily and Noah, still so young, had started to understand something most adults never learn. Money isn't just for spending. It's for building. They even made a family piggy bank. Coins clinked into it every time someone skipped a treat or made a smart choice. Emily drew a progress bar on cardboard, just like a fundraiser chart, and taped it near the piggy bank. Then one evening after dinner, Lily dropped 3 coins into the jar and said with a proud little grin, "Mom, this is so we can see the Eiffel Tower faster." Emily didn't know whether to laugh or cry. And that's when Michael realized something beautiful. The journey had already begun. Not on planes or trains, but in their hearts. They were already living the dream. Together. That same week, something incredible happened. A stock they had picked up months ago, on sale, almost by accident, jumped in value. The gain, not huge, but just enough to make their first real trip reservation. Not with credit cards, not with borrowed money, but with something they had built, earned, together. They celebrated like they'd won the lottery. And maybe in a way they had, because it wasn't about the amount, it was about what it meant. Freedom, partnership, focus, love. Michael turned to Emily, his eyes glowing. "You see, babe? This is just the beginning." She smiled back through happy tears and whispered, "Look how far we've already come." Everything was going smoothly. The family piggy bank was getting heavier. Investments were showing real results. The Thompson house breathed peace, laughter, and progress. But life, as it often does, likes to ask one simple question when everything seems perfect. Are you really ready? And this time, the test came fast. It was a Friday morning. Michael was called into an emergency meeting at his company. He left the house relaxed, thinking it was just another new project. But when he came home earlier than usual, face pale, eyes heavy, Emily didn't need to ask. She knew. "They let me go," he said quietly. "Team cuts. They're restructuring everything." Time seemed to pause for a moment. Emily felt the jolt. But instead of panicking, she took a deep breath, pulled up a chair, and looked him in the eyes. "Okay," she said calmly. "Let's talk. Together." That moment was powerful. Because years ago, maybe they would have spiraled, blamed each other, panicked. But not now. Now they had a plan. They had discipline. And, most importantly, they had each other. Over the next few days, Michael and Emily sat down and reviewed everything. Thanks to the savings they had built, they were covered for several months. Their investments were still generating passive income. And somewhere between the spreadsheets and deep breaths, Michael felt something he hadn't felt in years. Freedom. Freedom to ask himself, what do I actually want to do? That's when a long-lost dream came back to life. Starting his own business. Emily, ever the practical one, pulled out a notebook and started sketching ideas. Together, they turned uncertainty into inspiration, fear into possibility. That evening, over dinner, Lily looked up and asked with childlike innocence, "Daddy, are you going to work at home with Mommy now?" Michael looked at Emily, then back at his daughter. "Yes, sweetheart. Now we're going to build something new. Together." And in that quiet, warm moment, they both realized. The job loss wasn't the end. It was the start of a brand new chapter. With Michael now working from home, life felt different. At first, it was strange. He still woke up early, just like always, but the rush to leave was gone. Emily continued running her online shop, taking Lily to school, managing the daily rhythm of the house. But now there was something new in the air. The quiet energy of two people sitting side by side, calmly, courageously, rebuilding their future. Michael had always had a dream tucked away, making handcrafted wooden pieces, cutting boards, small furniture, custom work. He had the hands for it, the patience, the vision. What he never had was time. Now he did. And more importantly, he had support. Emily was the first to say, "Let's make this our project. You build, I'll handle marketing and social media. What do you think?" They took the first step right there in the garage. They carved out a small workspace, pulled a little from their savings, and bought the basic tools. The first products were simple, handmade with love in the quiet of the afternoons, while Lily sat nearby on the floor, coloring and humming softly. The name? Togetherwood. Lily came up with it. "Because we do everything together," she said proudly. Emily used her social media to promote the pieces. Friends began to support and share. Slowly, the first orders came in. Then, something big. A couple from the next town ordered a custom bookshelf engraved with "Our home. Our world." When Michael finished it, he nearly cried. But even more than the orders, something deeper was growing. Partnership. Evenings were now filled with laughter, shared ideas, small victories, and lessons from the day's challenges. On weekends, they reviewed their finances together. The stocks, the real estate funds, their rebuilt savings. They tracked everything in a simple blue notebook, the one Lily renamed the Dream Book. And somewhere in the middle of all this, between sawdust and spreadsheets, colored pencils and coffee mugs, they realized something profound. They were closer than ever. Not because they had to be, but because they had learned to build together, to dream together, to invest in each other. One evening, while locking up the garage, Michael turned to Emily and said quietly, "You know, I think losing my job might have been the best thing that ever happened to us." Emily smiled, eyes soft. "We didn't lose anything," she replied. "We just found a new direction." And so, with courage, humility, and a whole lot of love, they began to harvest the first sweet fruits of their new life. As the days passed, the little woodworking business that started in the garage began to blossom. Togetherwood was no longer just a side project. It had become a brand, a vision, a family mission. Michael poured heart and soul into each piece, shaping every board like it was a part of their story. Emily took charge of the photos, shipments, customer messages, even built their first website using YouTube tutorials and sheer determination. And Lily? She became the official signature. Each product went out with a colorful card drawn by her, signed with sweet messages like, "Made with love for a happy family." Growth was slow but steady. One afternoon, a local influencer posted a photo of one of their custom cutting boards. By the next morning, their phone wouldn't stop ringing. Sales, messages, compliments, even invitations to local craft fairs. But success brought its own challenges. More orders meant longer hours. Michael started to feel it in his back and shoulders. Emily, balancing her old online shop, their growing site, and caring for Lily, was stretched thin. One night, as Michael rubbed his aching neck, he said gently, "We need help." Emily nodded, pouring them both tea. "I agree. Let's do it smart. And like always, with our feet on the ground." They started looking for a larger space, still simple, but outside the house. They rented a modest workshop and hired help, Jake, a good friend from Michael's school days. Hardworking, honest, eager to learn. The business took shape. Better packaging, more materials. Emily brought in a friend to handle social media. Together, Wood was growing, not just in size, but in spirit. Through it all, they kept investing. They continued building their emergency fund, bought shares in solid companies, expanded into real estate funds, even opened a college savings account for Lily. Everything discussed, everything decided together. They had learned to listen, to move at each other's pace, to make decisions as a team. It was no longer her dream to travel and his dream to save. It had become our dream to build a future with love, balance, and freedom. One night, after a long day, they lay side by side in bed. Emily reached for Michael's hand and whispered, "We're far from perfect, but we really are, and that's enough for me." Michael smiled. "We don't need perfect. We just need each other." And in that moment, it was clear. The couple who once lived in different dreams had discovered that with love, communication, and the will to grow, there's no limit to what you can build. Together, Wood had never been stronger. The small workshop buzzed with orders. Emily had just locked in a partnership with a local home decor store. And Michael, even with the usual aches and sawdust in his hair, was full of energy and purpose. Lily, now 8, proudly declared she wanted to be boss of everything like mommy and make Wood magic like daddy. It felt like everything was falling into place. But life, well, it has a way of knocking when you least expect it. On a regular Friday morning, Michael pulled up to the workshop. He stepped out of the car and froze. There was a strange smell in the air. He unlocked the door, and his stomach dropped. A small electrical fire had sparked overnight. A short circuit in one of the outlets. It didn't destroy everything, but it was enough. Damaged machines, burned wood, finished orders reduced to ash. The structure unstable. Michael stood still in the doorway, stunned. Months of work, up in smoke. Hands shaking, he called Emily. "Love," the workshop caught fire. There was a long pause. Then, her voice came steady and clear. "Are you okay?" "Yes," he said, voice cracking. "Just devastated." She took a breath. "Then we'll fix it. Together. Like always." And just like that, the gears started turning. Emily rushed to the site. They called their insurance. Thank God they had signed the policy just weeks before. They called Jake. Called their suppliers. They made a video explaining what happened. No drama, just truth. And what happened next was nothing short of extraordinary. Customers offered to wait. Some sent tools. Others donated time. And online, the community showed up. Emily's followers didn't just share, they felt. They sent messages, hugs and words. They even launched a GoFundMe to help them rebuild. And in the middle of it all, between burned boards and insurance calls, one night, Emily looked at Michael and said, "You know what this all proves? We didn't just build furniture. We built trust. We built love. We built something no fire can destroy." Michael wrapped his arms around her, tears in his eyes. And for the first time that day, his heart stopped racing. In the days that followed, the rebuild began. It was slow. It was exhausting. But every hammer swing, every plank nailed into place felt like healing. And then Lily walked in, holding a drawing. A little wooden house. A big red heart on top. And in her handwriting below, "This is a family that never gives up." Michael and Emily looked at each other and knew they were doing it right. 2 months after the fire, the workshop was back on its feet. Stronger, smarter, and filled with even more heart. Michael and Emily used the setback as a reset. They upgraded the tools, reorganized the layout, and even created a little showroom corner where customers could see and feel the handcrafted magic up close. And right by the entrance, Lily's framed drawing, the little wooden house with the red heart. A reminder to everyone that this wasn't just a woodworking shop. This was a place built on love, resilience, and second chances. But something was still stirring inside Emily. "Michael, I think we can go further," she said one afternoon. "I think our story might help others." Michael looked up, curious. "You mean grow the business more?" She smiled. "No, I mean dream with the world." And that's when she had the idea. They'd start a YouTube channel, telling their story, step by step. Not just the fire, but the beginning, the mistakes, the little victories, the way they were building passive income, slowly, smartly, as a family. Emily shared everything. How they invested in real estate funds, how they tracked the family budget, how they divided responsibilities, and most of all, how love was the real secret ingredient. The channel started small, but their warmth, honesty, and realness, that couldn't be ignored. Soon followers poured in. Messages, comments, invitations to speak. People from all over the country felt seen in their story. Michael, who once hated the idea of being in front of a camera, slowly grew to enjoy it, especially when he realized his voice mattered, that other men saw themselves in his doubts and in his growth. And Lily, a total star. Every time she appeared in a video, the comment section exploded with hearts and smiling faces. Passive income wasn't just coming from stocks and rental funds anymore. Now it came from the channel, from mentoring programs Emily led for couples, from online courses they built together. The couple who once clashed over whether to spend or save now taught thousands that balance is the real wealth. And through it all, they kept doing what they'd always done, walking hand in hand. One evening, Emily said softly, "We didn't change each other. We shaped each other like carefully carved wood, with patience, intention, and love." Michael smiled, pulled her close, and whispered, "And you sanded down my fears, and showed me love is the best investment of all." It was summer. Emily opened the living room window and let the warm breeze wash over her face. Inside, Lily was building castles with wooden blocks on the floor. Michael sat at the table, sorting through the papers for their next investment. The house was quiet, peaceful, but inside Emily something stirred. An old dream, a whisper from the past. "Hey, love," she said, half smiling. "Do you remember that map I stuck on the wall right after we got married?" Michael looked up and chuckled. "Of course I do. It was covered in hearts, Paris, Rome, Tokyo. And I remember thinking, wow, how much is that dream gonna cost?" They both laughed, but Emily's eyes sparkled. "I think we can start checking those places off now, for real." Michael paused for a moment. Then he stood up, walked to the drawer, and pulled out 2 passports. Updated, with fresh visas. "I've been waiting for you to say that," he said. "Our first stop, Italy." Emily gasped, then hugged him hard. They laughed like kids, like the world had just handed them their wildest wish. Lily, hearing all the excitement, called out from the floor, "Are we going on an adventure?" And yes, that's exactly what they were about to do. With stable passive income, solid investments, and a loyal online community cheering them on, they finally made their dream come true. And the best part? No guilt, no fear, just the light hearts of 2 people who built something beautiful together. They documented the journey, filming from quiet piazzas, sunlit vineyards, and hidden cafes. But their message wasn't about luxury. It was about meaning. They showed the world that saving doesn't mean sacrificing life. It means choosing when and how to live it. That planning and love aren't opposites. They're 2 feet walking the same road. From a hillside in Tuscany, with vineyards behind her, Emily looked into the camera and said, "This dream came true because we learned to listen, to respect, and to dream side by side. Love isn't a competition, but when love becomes an alliance, the world feels small compared to what you can conquer." Michael, arm around her shoulder, added, "It was never about spending or saving. It was about knowing when the time is right. And most of all, doing it together." When they returned from their first trip, something had changed. It wasn't just the luggage full of souvenirs, or the sun-soaked photos that looked like postcards. It was something in their eyes, a look that said, the real destination was never on the map. It was in the journey, built side by side. Emily sat on the couch, a warm coffee in her hands, watching the very first video they had ever filmed. The shaky camera, the bad lighting, but that powerful message behind it, full of hope, full of truth. Michael sat beside her. They shared a quiet glance, the kind you give when you know you've made it, not in numbers, but in meaning. "We really did it," Emily whispered. Michael smiled. "Yeah, but the best part? We never stopped trying. At this point, their passive income covered more than their monthly needs. Their YouTube channel had become a place of support, encouragement, and honest inspiration. And their daily life, once filled with stress and silence, was now a space of respect, partnership, and shared purpose. Emily began offering online talks about family finances. Michael started writing a book, filled with lessons from their journey. And Lily was growing up with a front-row seat to what real love looks like. Not perfect, but honest, kind, and strong. Because if they'd learned anything, it's this. There's no single right path in life. But there is your path, built step by step, with patience, with trust, and with the decision, every day, to keep walking together. Their story was proof that different dreams aren't a reason to break. They can actually be the beginning of something better. A new life, a deeper love, a partnership where no one loses and both win. Emily and Michael discovered that happiness isn't about getting everything at once. It's about building everything, little by little, with the one who makes your heart race. And so, in between trips, new investments, and cozy dinners at home, they kept growing, as a couple, as parents, as partners. Because when love is real, it doesn't hold you back, it sets you free. What started as a divided dream became a multiplied life. Did this story move you? If it inspired you, gave you hope, or made you reflect on the power of love and teamwork, then this channel was made for you. Here, we believe that together is always better. That love isn't afraid of challenges. It faces them, grows from them, and wins with them. So hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell notification. Every week, we share heartwarming stories, real and inspired, that show how couples have transformed their lives with love, courage, and the right choices. Tell us in the comments what this story meant to you. Your words might inspire someone who needs it today. This channel isn't just about storytelling. It's about hope. It's about healing. It's about transformation. Welcome to the family.